On November 1st, 1980, the nude body of a girl, estimated to be between the ages of 14 and 20, was discovered by a truck driver who had been driving past the Sam Houston National Forest. She was lying face down in an area of grass approximately 20 feet, 6.1 meters from the shoulder of Interstate Highway 45 and just 2 miles north of Huntsville. This motorist called police at 9:20 a.m. to report his discovery. The descendant had been deceased for approximately 6 hours, thus placing her time of death around 3:20 a.m. A rectangular brown pendant containing a smoky blue or brown glass-colored stone on a thin gold chain necklace was found around her neck. Her earrings were pierced, although no earrings were found in her ears nor at the crime scene. High-heeled red leather sandals with light brown straps, which investigators would subsequently discover the girl had been carrying around while alive, were also recovered from the scene, although the remainder of her clothing was missing. The Walker County Jane Doe was approximately 5 feet 6 inches in height and weighed between 105 and 120 pounds, and was described by the Harris County Medical Examiner as being well-nourished individual. Her eyes were hazel, and her hair was approximately 10 inches in length, and light brown in color, with what has been described as a possible reddish tint, although her hair bared no evidence of having received color treatment. The descendant's fingernails were bare, and her toenails had been painted pink. Distinctive features upon her body were a vertical scar measuring 1.5 inches at the edge of her right eyebrow, and the fact that her right nipple was inverted. Due to the general condition of the descendant's body, including her overall health, nutrition, and the excellent dental care she had received in life, Walker County Jane Doe may have hailed from a middle-class household. The cause of death was certified by the coroner to be asphyxia due to ligature strangulation, possibly inflicted via a pantyhose, fragments of which, along with the descendant's underwear, were found inside the victim's vaginal cavity. The pantyhose and underwear had likely been placed inside the girl's vaginal cavity in an attempt to prevent her body from bleeding as she was transported to the site of her discovery, as the girl had been sexually assaulted with a large blunt instrument, both vaginally and anally, and these acts have occurred prior to her death. It is unknown if the girl had actually been conventionally raped, as no biological evidence attesting to this form of assault was discovered, either at the crime scene or in the subsequent coroner's examination of her body. Furthermore, the girl had also been the recipient of a severe beating which had been inflicted prior to her death, as many bruises were evident across her body, with her lips and right eyelid in particular being extensively swollen. In addition, the right shoulder of the descendant's body bore a deep and visible bite mark. Following exhaustive witness appeals and extensive media accounts regarding this murder, numerous individuals, all of whom who are now deceased, informed investigators that they had seen a teenage girl matching the descendant's description within the 24 hours prior to her murder. These individuals included the manager of a South End Gulf Station and 2 employees at the Hitch and Post truck stop, all of whom described this girl as wearing blue jeans, a dirty yellow pullover, and a white knit sweater with noticeably large pockets which extended past her waist. This girl had been carrying a red leather-strapped high-heel sandals. According to the first witness, the girl, appearing somewhat deceived, had arrived at the South End Gulf Station at approximately 6:30 p.m. on October 31st. At this location, she had exited a blue 1973 or 74 model Chevy Caprice with a light-colored top, which had been driven by a white male. This witness stated that the girl had asked for directions to the Texas Department of Corrections Ellis Prison Farm. After receiving directions, the girl had left the Gulf Station on foot, which was later seen walking north on Sam Houston Avenue. This same girl was later seen at the Hitch and Post truck stop along Interstate 45, where she again requested directions to the Texas Department of Corrections Ellis Prison Farm, claiming a friend was waiting for her at this location. In response, a waitress drew a map providing directions to the prison farm, which she then handed to the girl. This waitress informed investigators that she had suspected the girl was a runaway, and that in their brief conversation, the girl had informed her she was from either Rockport or Aransas Pass, Texas. This girl had also claimed to this waitress that she was 19 years old. When the waitress expressed doubts to her acclaimed age and further asked if her parents knew about her whereabouts, this girl had reportedly replied, "Who cares?" Which to me obviously means she was probably a runaway. Both inmates and employees of the Ellis Prison Farm were canvassed and shown mortuary photographs of the victim. Although none were able to identify her, investigators also traveled to both the Rockport and Aransas Pass districts to converse with law enforcement personnel regarding any missing females whose physical description matched that of the descendant. Staff at schools in both districts were also contacted by investigators for the same purpose. In numerous Texas high school books were searched for any female known to be missing whose physical features matched her description. All these lines of inquiry failed to bear fruition, and no subsequent missing person reports pertaining to young Caucasian females have ever been matched to the descendant. Despite the fact police and media appeals in the towns of Rockport and Aransas Pass to discover the identity of Walker County Jane Doe failed to produce any fruitful leads as to her identity, it is believed the girl must have indeed hailed from the general region. She had stated to the waitress at the Hitch and Post truck stop at the evening prior to her murder. On January 16th, 1981, Walker County Jane Doe was buried in the Ackless Addition at Oakwood Cemetery. Her burial followed an open casket funeral, and the cemetery in which she was interred is located within the town where her body was found. She is buried beneath a tombstone donated by Morris Memorials. The inscription upon her tombstone reads, "Unknown white female, died November 1st, 1980," which I think is a shame, and that seems extremely disrespectful. And according to the Walker County Sheriff's Office Detective Thomas Bean, he said that person made a statement when they did that. "Honestly, no one should ever be treated like that. If we could positively identify the victim, there is a good chance that we could identify the suspect. At this point, I'm willing to look anywhere. If there's a missing person from New York that looks like her, I'm willing to look at that." The remains of Walker County Jane Doe were exhumed in 1999 in order to conduct a further forensic examination of her remains, including the obtaining of a DNA sample from her body. This second forensic examination of her body revised the likely age of Walker County Jane Doe to be between 14 and 18 years old. In November 2015, the case was officially reopened by the Walker County Sheriff's Office. DNA testing has also been conducted upon the high-heeled red leather sandals found at the crime scene. The results of this testing remain undisclosed. Local police departments have also actively monitored other missing person reports for potential matches to the descendant. Investigators have also reached out to the public via various online websites, news media, and television networks in hopes of generating further leads or inquiries, all of which to date have been unsuccessful in identifying either Walker County Jane Doe or her murderer. Several forensic facial reconstructions have been created to illustrate estimations of how Walker County Jane Doe may have looked in life. In 1990, forensic and portrait artist Karen T. Taylor created a composite drawing of Walker County Jane Doe in which she incorporated an estimation as to the appearance of this necklace she had been wearing. An investigator at the Walker County Sheriff's Office has also created a facial rendering of the descendant. Karen Taylor has included this case in her book, Forensic Art and Illustration, in which she confessed to having experienced difficulties in creating her sketch of the descendant, as the only frontal photograph made available to her at the time was the one taken after the victim had received extensive reconstructive cosmetic treatment at the Huntsville Funeral Home in order for her facial features to be sufficient to be viewed in an open casket funeral. Taylor further explained that a scaled photograph of the girl's necklace was not made available to her, and she was forced to guess the size of this item of jewelry for the facial reconstruction she produced. In more recent years, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children has constructed and released 2 facial reconstructions of how Walker County Jane Doe may have appeared in life. The first facial reconstruction was released in 2012, and the second shortly after the 35th anniversary of her murder. This second facial reconstruction was created with the aid of stunning mortuary photographs taken of the descendant. The first theory is Kathleen. In December 2015, a photograph surfaced of a white female aged approximately 14 years old and 5 feet 4 inches in height, and whose other physical characteristics also closely matched those of Walker County Jane Doe. The girl depicted in the image is possibly a runaway named Kathleen, who may have hailed from Corpus Christi. This photograph emerged after a brother and sister reviewed a private collection of images taken of themselves, then aged 12 and 10, at a motel in Beeville, Texas in the summer of 1980. These siblings have encountered this girl at a motel in question and recall both that she may have lived with a couple at the time the image was taken, and that she had expressed her wishes to meet a friend from Sugarland Prison, which sounds pretty scary. Both of these siblings sincerely believe that Kathleen, or Kathleen with a K, may actually be Walker County Jane Doe. A photograph of this girl, plus additional details of her physical characteristics and the circumstances surrounding the caption of this image, currently exist upon the Facebook page Who Was Walker County Jane Doe? This image and details pertaining to its caption are accompanied by appeals to the public to help provide the girl's full name and origins, all of which can be anonymously submitted to law enforcement should the sender wish to do so. Primarily, appeals are made to any individual who attended any elementary or middle school within Corpus Christi in the 1960s or 70s who may recognize the girl in this photograph. Kathleen, or Kathleen, was most likely born in 1966, although her precise year of birth is unknown. The second theory is gender of perpetrator. Some individuals have theorized that Walker County Jane Doe may have actually been assaulted and murdered by a female assailant as opposed to a male. This theory was initially suggested by a journalist named Michael Hargraves, who based this assumption upon the fact that no semen was found upon or within the body of Walker County Jane Doe, or at the actual crime scene, and that only sexual assaults conclusively proven to have been committed upon the girl were performed by aggressively forcing an item or object into her bodily orifices. Hargraves elaborated his theory by stating that men who commit crimes of sexual nature are typically known to bite their victims upon sensitive areas of the body as opposed to the shoulder, as had occurred in this case. The active male perpetrators of murders committed with a sexual motivation, occasionally collecting souvenirs for their victims, were also notably to be inconsistent with this case, as the necklace of the girl had worn was still present upon her body. However, the fact that it is unknown if Walker County Jane Doe had worn other items of jewelry at the time of her murder, and that her earrings were pierced yet earlobes held no earrings, may negate this portion of Hargrave's theory. Furthermore, most of the girl's clothing was missing from the crime scene. The final theory is links to other murders. A possibility exists that Walker County Jane Doe may have been murdered by the same perpetrator as a formerly unidentified murder victim known as Orange Socks, who was murdered almost exactly a year before Walker County Jane Doe, and whose body was found in Georgetown, Texas. Serial killer Henry Lee Lucas has been named as a possible suspect in this case. Although a bite mark found upon the girl's shoulder was inconsistent with Lucas's dentistry, no prime suspects have been named in this murder, although police have considered the possibility that the victim was murdered by a serial killer. In 2017, a theory arose that Walker County Jane Doe may have been killed by the same perpetrator known to have murdered 3 other females in 1980, whose bodies were also discarded along Interstate 45. Only one of those 4 victims had been identified, and all had been strangled. All 4 decades had been described by investigators as being high-risk victims. One of those females, aged between 20 and 30, was located on October 15th in Houston. She was a black female with possibly Asian heritage, and had died months prior to the discovery of her body. The second female was also black. Her body was discovered beneath a bridge in Houston. She was aged between 16 and 26 years old at the time of her murders. To save time, I will only be naming the names and the states that they come from. First up is Joyce Brewer, who disappeared on September 6, 1970, and the location was Grand Prix, Texas. Next is Mary Trilissa, who went missing on December 23rd, 1974. She was from Fort Worth, Texas. Wendy Eaton, who disappeared on May 17th, 1975, from Media, Pennsylvania. Maria Enjarez, who disappeared on February 12th, 1976, from Newark, Connecticut. Cindy King, who disappeared on July 19th, 1977, from Grand Pass, Oregon. Tina Kemp, who disappeared on February 3rd, 1979, from Felton, Delaware. Kimberly Ray Doss, who disappeared from Jacksonville, Florida, on May 29th, 1979. Marcia Remnick, who disappeared on June 9th, 1979, from Virginia Beach, Virginia. Angelia Meeker, who disappeared from Tacoma, Washington, on July 7th, 1979. Karen Zendowski, who disappeared on October 23rd, 1979, from Border Township, New Jersey. Deborah McCall, who disappeared on November 5th, 1979, from Delaware Grove, Illinois. Marie Bui, who disappeared on November 21st, 1979, from Craig, Colorado. Christy Lynn Booth, who disappeared on February 2nd, 1980, from Midland, Texas. Rachel Garden, who disappeared on March 22nd, 1980, from Newtown, New Hampshire. Lorraine Ra, who disappeared on April 26th, 1980, from Manchester, New Hampshire. Roxanne Eastland, who disappeared on June 28th, 1980, from Alaska. And the final one is Carla Corley, who disappeared on August 12th, 1980, from Birmingham, Alabama.